Bom, boa noite a todos, muito obrigado pela participação. Mais uma vez, né, nossa homenagem aos pessoal que está lutando contra esse inimigo comum, né, Covid-19. Pessoal de hospitais, pessoas que estão confinados em casa, trabalhadores esperando a liberação, empresários, né, esperando também a volta da economia, né, para normal. Nossas homenagens a todos os que estão batalhando aí para vencer essa luta comum aqui. Tá? A AOTS, então, está oferecendo série de palestras, webinar, né? Para contribuir um pouquinho com o pessoal, né? Para aumentar o conhecimento, para que quando terminar essa pandemia aí, ficar fortalecido pelo mais conhecimento, né? Para enfrentar a nova realidade. A AOTS do Japão é uma entidade subordinada ao Ministério de Economia, Indústria e Comércio, lá no Japão, e oferece bolsa de estudo para vários países, né? E a AOTS do Brasil, nós daqui do Brasil, somos uma associação de ex-bolsistas, ex-estagiários no Japão, todos, né, que fomos estudar lá no Japão. Temos mais de 2.000 membros associados aqui no Brasil. Vamos lá, vamos ver então a nossa missão, visão, né? Então, esse aqui é o tema da palestra de hoje, né? Economia japonesa pós-Covid. Então, a Associação AOTS do Brasil tem como missão contribuir para o desenvolvimento econômico, social e tecnológico do Brasil e do Japão, através do desenvolvimento dos recursos humanos das organizações brasileiras e pela promoção da cooperação entre empresas dos dois países. E como visão, tornar-se uma entidade de excelência em desenvolvimento de recursos humanos e de promoção de negócio. E como é que a gente faz isso? Vamos ver, a próxima. Então, a gente faz as seguintes coisas, né? Apoiar empresas com serviços de consultoria, treinamento gerencial e assessoria empresarial na implantação de programas de qualidade e de melhoria do sistema de gestão no modelo japonês, né? Então, nós damos treinamento, assessoria, consultoria, né, para empresas aqui no Brasil, na própria empresa ou em qualquer outro lugar, né? E também enviamos as pessoas para o Japão para ser treinado lá, né? Pode ser empresários, executivos, engenheiros, técnicos, vários níveis, mas não para estudantes, né? Pessoal já formado, é para pessoal já formado, né? E desenvolver recursos humanos chaves para as empresas no Brasil, enviando executivos e técnicos para programas de treinamento da AOTS no Japão ou trazendo especialistas japoneses para conduzir treinamento no Brasil. Então, lá, a AOTS do Japão, lá no Japão, tem vários professores de renome mundial, né, famosos mundialmente. Então, nós trazemos também professores para dar aula aqui também. Né? E apoiar empresas japonesas e brasileiras a fazerem negócios. Se uma empresa japonesa tiver procurando algum parceiro aqui no Brasil, a gente faz essa intermediação, né, de apresentar empresas brasileiras para japoneses e vice-versa. Se tiver empresa brasileira que queira procurar, né, uma parceria com empresa japonesa, a gente faz também essa apresentação. Né? E também promover cultura e cursos de língua japonesa. Língua japonesa para executivos, para empresários que vão fazer curso lá no Japão. E também curso de língua portuguesa para os empresários executivos japoneses que vêm aqui para o Brasil também. Tá? Bom, vamos lá então, próximo slide. Quem quiser conhecer mais a fundo as atividades da AOTS, conhecer a AOTS, então pode entrar no website aí www.aotssp.com.br ou enviar e-mail para adm@aotssp.com.br. Então hoje nós temos palestra do professor Takagi Tomomi, né? com o título de Economia Japonesa pós-Covid-19. Eu vou ler rapidamente aqui o currículo do professor. Ele é investidor anjo e consultor de startups. Ex-professor associado de empreendedorismo da Escola de Pós-Graduação em Administração na Universidade de Kagawa. MBA em Londres Business School. Possui experiência equilibrada em investimentos de capital de risco, gerenciamento de startups e serviços de consultoria. 10 IPOs de empresas de portfólio por meio de fundos de investimentos privados. Uma venda comercial de uma startup da internet para uma gigante japonesa de telecomunicações. Esse é um pequeno resumo, né, do currículo do professor. E hoje nós temos como debatedor, comentarista, o empresário Paulo Hirai. O currículo dele, também resumido aqui, Paulo Hirai é acionista e membro do Conselho de Administração da Penha S.A., presidente do Conselho Deliberativo da Associação AOTS do Brasil, membro do Conselho Diretor da ASAP, Aliança para a Saúde Populacional, e diretor executivo. Executivo sênior em grandes e prestigiosas empresas, com experiência de trabalho nos Estados Unidos, Argentina e Japão, além do Brasil. Graduado em Engenharia pelo ITA, Instituto Tecnológico de Aeronáutica. Pós-graduado em Administração de Empresas pela FGV e cursos no Japão, AOTS, e nos Estados Unidos, MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. E o moderador hoje será o professor Dr. Hugo Ibuski. O professor tem mais de 20 anos de experiência em operações industriais e supply chain, compras, logística e qualidade, desenvolvimento de produtos e gestão de projetos, dos quais 18 anos no setor automotivo e 6 anos no Japão. Professor de Programa de Engenharia de Gestão da Universidade Federal do ABC, onde leciona as disciplinas de manufatura, qualidade, logística e desenvolvimento integrado de produtos. Pesquisador líder do Grupo de Pesquisa em Gestão Lean da Universidade Federal do ABC, coordenador do novo Laboratório de Indústria 4.0 da Universidade e ex-bolsista da JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency, Kaizen e 5S. E também é diretor internacional da AOTS do Brasil. Bom, vamos lá então? Muito obrigado, professor Takagi e todos os participantes hoje.
Obrigado, Iksan. Gostaria de agradecer a presença de todos, né, nessa quarta-feira à noite. E special thanks to Professor Takagi to be able to speak about the Japan economic situations after COVID. And we would like to start your presentation, Professor. I will give you the sharing function of the presentation. Just a second.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
No, I can't share my screen yet.
Just a second. Try it now.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, before I share my screen, こんばんは、皆さん。This is Tomomi Takagi です。From Tokyo. This is 7:43 in the morning in Tokyo, so I believe it is exactly a 12-hour difference from Brazil or São Paulo. And yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity. It is my great pleasure to talk to you online. Well, this morning. Yeah, let me start by sharing my screen.
Okay.
So it's shared now?
Yes. If you put in presentation mode. Yes, perfect.
Hi. And
You?
hi. Okay, let me well, introduce myself briefly, because I also believe that Shimabukuro-san has Shimabukuro-san, Ibusuki-san has already explained about me, about myself. And hi, I'm from Kagawa Prefecture in Shikoku, and I've been I did my bachelor's in economics at Waseda University, and just like Ibusuki-san did his. Did you do masters or exchange program there?
PhD, actually.
PhD, okay, PhD. I'm sorry. Yes, so it's the same school. Waseda University in Tokyo in economics. Well, many years ago. And after graduating from Waseda, I started my career at a venture capital firm called JAFCO, which is the one of the biggest players of venture capitals in Japan. Or back then, which is 35 years ago, that was one of the very few venture capital firms in Japan. So there I started my career as a venture capitalist, or associate of a venture capitalist. And after 3 years, I decided to study abroad, and I chose London Business School for my MBA. And so I was there in London from 1989 to 1991. And after graduating from London Business School, I had a chance to work in the United States of America, in Massachusetts, for 3 years before I came back to Tokyo. And since then, I basically, I live in Tokyo. But most recently, I was teaching at Kagawa University, which is obviously in my hometown of Kagawa, and I was teaching MBA program there for the MBA class at Kagawa University. Last month, I believe Professor Tsukada Sensei talked about Japanese production system, Kaizen, and so on. And I met Tsukada Sensei at Kagawa University, and that's how I had today's chance to talk before you for this occasion. So therefore, I'm not pure academic. I taught at Kagawa University MBA Business School, and also taught a graduate school at Ritsumeikan University. But I'm basically a businessman and investor. I invest in startups, and also I had from time to time I work on the venture startup side. And recently I was a CFO of a Kagawa University affiliated startup in telemedicine. So that's what I do. And and Ibusuki-san, let's start the first poll. Let's pull up the first poll, because I like to know who you are, who the audience are today.
Okay. Aos participantes, o professor Takagi irá realizar algumas perguntas. Por favor, se vocês puderem votar. Eu vou agora começar a primeira pergunta, de múltipla escolha, né? Vou deixar um tempinho para vocês votarem. Uma pergunta de múltipla escolha, perguntando se você é Nikkei, outros ou não sei. Todos estão votando, faltam mais 11 pessoas, temos 40 participantes. chegou aos 32, 33. Vamos lá, pessoal, participando. Então, vamos terminar aqui.
How was the result? Ah, okay.
This is the result. It's
Okay,
more or
okay.
less half and half, né? Temos um resultado dividido.
Yeah.
Um pouco maior,
Okay.
mais da metade é Nikkei. Okay.
Okay.
I thought, the second one?
Yeah. Huh? No,
Okay.
just yeah. I thought majority of you are Nikkei, but yeah, okay. Oh, well, 57% Nikkei, and so there are many other members who are not Nikkei.
Right.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, let's go on to the next one.
Next one? Okay.
Next poll.
A segunda pergunta qual é a sua função, né? Gestão dentro da empresa, profissional de serviço, né? Seria então profissional independente, da academia ou outros. O pessoal está voltando. 25, 30 pessoas. Okay. We see that the majority is management position and the independent professionals as well.
Oh, interesting. Okay, management meaning well, it can be management at big corporation, listed corporation, and also owner of small businesses, small and medium businesses as well. Okay, very good. Thank you. Yeah, let's get into the main topic. Okay, so let's start. So today, we're going to talk. Well, I'm going to talk about the how the Japanese is coping with this COVID-19 and the economic impact that is causing and also likely to cause in the coming future. So let me start with the situation in Japan, and so far, by the end of the last month, 18,000 confirmed cases in Japan, which is relatively small compared to some other countries. I believe Brazil is also having a very big numbers these days. And less than 1,000 deaths so far. So we think we are doing, relatively fine. And the case fatality ratio, which is the death divided by the number of confirmed cases, is about 5%, which is in line with some other countries here, like the United States, Germany, Brazil. But the absolute number of confirmed cases and also deaths is relatively small in Japan so far. But if these countries like France, Italy, UK, the European countries had lot bigger case fatality rate ratio, because the number of patients apparently over surpassed the capacity, medical capacity. So they couldn't take care of the patients very well. Therefore, the much higher case fatality ratio. So in terms of number of deaths per population, this is in case million population. So we have 7.7 deaths cases per million population, which makes us one of the lowest countries in the world for the in terms of the casualty of the COVID so far. Some countries, the numbers are still increasing, including Brazil and India. So it started mostly in developed countries, but it's spreading to other countries as well. So how it started and how it evolved is what I'm going to talk about. And this is a poster, about 100 years ago in Japan. So 100 years ago, we had Spanish flu, as you know, across the globe, also pandemic back then. And this is a poster in Japan to promote wearing masks 100 years ago. And it worked very well. And since then, the people in Japan, it's very common for the Japanese to wear masks when they have cold and or when they have a flu, so that they do not spread that disease to other people. And it has become sort of public customs in Japan. So many people think this is good practice, and one of the reasons the COVID also didn't spread faster in Japan. So the outbreak started in this cruise ship named Diamond Princess. It is a British registered cruise ship and owned and operated by Princess Cruise, which is a U.S. company. So the ship started from Hong Kong and came to Japan, and they had dozens of patients on the way before they arrived in Japan. And initially, the government didn't know what to do because it's not a Japanese ship, and it's not operated by the Japanese company. But it was coming to Japan to Yokohama, and we didn't have experience of a quarantine for decades. So the government was slow to respond. Fair to say. So back then, the ship was the site of the largest outbreak outside of China. And it was February 1st, a passenger who had disembarked days earlier in Hong Kong tested positive for the COVID-19. So that was alarm. And then the ship was quarantined immediately after it arrived in Japan, in Japanese waters on 3rd of February. They had 3,700 passengers and crew members on board. And over the next month, more than 700 people, so that is about 20% of the passengers on board, were infected, confirmed infected, and 13 of them were dead. So there was an outbreak, and soon after that, we had confirmed cases, not only on the ship, but also on the soil of Japan as well. But the infection peaked in mid-April. Japan's line is orange, so this is the number of daily confirmed cases of COVID in Japan, and it peaked in middle of April, when other countries were, some other countries were increasing still, and some were flattened, like China. China is by April, the number of confirmed cases were very low in China. And the death cases also peaked accordingly. So in mid-April, the number of confirmed cases peaked, and about 10 days later, this is Japan, and the death cases also peaked. The government declared a state of emergency after that, and this is the picture of a famous Shibuya crossing. So usually it is a very, very crowded all through the day, with 1,000 people crossing each other. But this was the picture of after the state of emergency. So it's almost deserted. state of emergency was declared on April 7th for 7 prefectures that had large number of coronavirus infections until the 6th of May. And this, of course, included big cities like Tokyo, Osaka, Nagoya, and Sapporo, and others. And but the state of emergency was expanded nationwide because by then we had more confirmed cases in other parts of Japan. So it was expanded nationwide on 16th of April, and the retail business were asked to shut down for some compensation, and the people were asked to stay home during the month of April. And eventually, it was also extended periodically until the end of May. And the emergency economic measures were taken. 108 trillion yen, which is about $1 trillion US dollars, which is equivalent to 20% of Japan's GDP, which is so massive. A scale of economic measures, fiscal measures were taken, including business support like job retention. 4/5 of the cost are borne by the government for SMEs if they retain their employees, and 2/3 of cost of compensation for others, for other businesses or bigger businesses, and the deferment of the payment of national taxes and social security, and the 2 million yen, which is about 20,000 US dollars, were given to each SMEs, and 1 million yen, which is about 10,000 USD each, to individual business owners. And also, 100,000 yen, or about 1,000 US dollars cash to all residents. And my family also received it last week as well. So that was how the COVID-19 started and how it evolved. And now I'd like to turn to the next section. And here's another poll. Ugo-san, can you pull up the poll for me?
Okay, I will start the third poll. Pessoal, por favor, votem. É uma terceira pergunta do professor. Quem liderou a transformação digital na sua companhia? Foi o presidente, CEO, né? CIO, que é o Chief Information Officer, ou foi o Covid-19, né, que agilizou a transformação digital na sua companhia? Acho que a gente teve um problema com a Tag-san. Tag-san está de volta.
Thank you.
We can see that the majority is COVID-19.
Yeah, I guess this is the same for all countries across the world. And Japan also, although we have technology, it was, it has been a very slow process for many companies to adapt the digital transformation. Because we, live in a country of a relatively small area, majority of the people are packed into the big cities. So it was very easy for us to communicate face-to-face. But COVID-19 really changed that digital transformation. So the process, digital transformation process has been ongoing in Japan for decades, but it really accelerated that trend, I think, or really forced many companies to transform, I have to say. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is actually meant to be a joke, so let's go on. It's Japan, although economy is well, pretty strong and it's big, but the national debt is really worrying. And yeah, this is a very long history of a Japanese national debt as percentage of nominal GDP, Japan's GDP. So it started more than 100 years ago at 1890, and back then, Japan was very economically poor, so they couldn't borrow. The government couldn't borrow anyway from other countries, and the domestic economy was very small, so the taxation was very difficult as well. And well, the government started to borrow more from, well, initially from foreign investors. Like in 1904, because of the outbreak of the Russo-Japanese War, Japan fought against the Imperial Russia, and the government didn't have money to keep the war going, so the government borrowed from foreign investors in New York, in America, and also in Europe, particularly from the Jewish capitalists. And it peaked in obviously during the World War II, because it was a life or death kind of situation for Japan. So the government didn't think about anything else, but kept on borrowing. Well, this time, we couldn't borrow. The government couldn't borrow from foreign countries, so it was mainly domestically borrowed from the Japanese nationals. And obviously, we lost the war. Therefore, the government couldn't pay back the debt to the bondholders, mostly Japanese. So that was the first time the Japanese government went bankrupt financially, first time. And after the war, the economy gradually resumed in Japan, and the government national debt also started to increase. And now we are at the level of 200, almost 50% at this moment, because it kept the chart kept going up until now. So we are now at the level of 250% debt level. Well, as of today. So it is very alarming, and it would be very difficult for the government to pay back the debt. This is, if compared to other countries, Japan has well, this is a net financial liabilities. Obviously, the government has debt liabilities as well as its assets, right? So this is a net financial liabilities, meaning that national debt minus the asset the government has, or financial asset the government has. The Japanese government has financial assets like U.S. bonds, American bonds, or other foreign countries, sovereign bonds as well. So this is a net national debt or financial liabilities. Still, Japan's debt level is very high compared to other countries. Italy is infamous for the big governmental debt for a long time, but Japan has surpassed it more than 10 years ago. And other countries are here, like US. US is also, recent years, the debt level is kept going up. UK as well, after the global financial crisis about 10 years, about 10 years ago. And this is a budget deficit of the Japanese government. And primary expenses are, most of the expenses are actually the biggest expense. Well, as you can imagine, is a social security. So about 1/3 of total expenditure of the Japanese government is for the social security, followed by local allocation tax grants. This means the central government collects taxes, but it would allocate that part of the taxes to local governments or municipals, mostly in the countryside. And the revenue side is 60% is covered by the taxation of each year. So this is well, on the other hand, only 60%, or including other revenues, 65%. So about 2/3 of the expenses are covered by the taxes. However, 1/3 or about 35% of the expenses, the government has to borrow every year. Why the social security cost so big? Of course, it is because of the cost of aging, and we have so this is a social security. Social security is increasing, whereas other expenses are not increasing much, more or less stable for the last few decades. So social security, because of aging, is the biggest issue for Japan and for many other countries as well. We have one of the largest aged population in the world. Currently, about 27% of the total population of Japan is at the age of 65 years old or older. And most of them, obviously do not work. They own pensions, and the number of productive age, which is between 15 and 64, I believe, is about 60%, and it's constantly decreasing and expected to decrease much farther in the future. And the child population is also decreasing, very rapidly. So how can we get out of this gloomy future, or out of this mess? I would say, COVID-19 or not, whether there was COVID-19 or not, Japan has been struggling with social security costs, mainly due to the aging population. And there are some means to finish this issue. One is obviously a budget cut, but just like in any other countries, this is very politically difficult because it's very unpopular for the voters. And tax increase, this is also difficult because this is also unpopular among the voters. And consumption tax was increased to 10% from 8% last year, but it took like 10 years just to do that. And so this is also politically difficult to increase taxes. And the third choice, and this is actually most countries take usually, is inflation. And whether it is intentional inflation or unintentional inflation, just natural inflation because of the too much money in the market, whereas the economy is not increasing, causes natural inflation in the end. But it hasn't happened. Many people predicted it would, Japan would get into hyperinflation. Long before And it hasn't happened, and it's not happening yet. Because of the, there's a global deflation trend in the past, 2 decades, and the aging people, we have the aging population as we just saw, and Japanese aging people do not spend much. They stick to their cash, and they are the richest. Well, according to the statistics, they are the richest when they actually die, because they do not spend. They spend less than they they spend less than their pensions or whatever source of income they have. So the people are not spending. The aging people are not spending. Therefore, the inflation has not happened. There's also another element to explain about the this very calm or very stable foreign exchange rate and the inflation rate, which is the Japanese national credit. Well, Japan is the largest creditor nation actually in the world. So this is a net international investment position, which is a difference between the external financial assets and the liability of a country. And Japan is this makes Japan the largest creditor nation in the world, which means that although the Japanese government is poor financially, they had to kept on borrowing every year just to make the ends meet. However, Japan as a country was largest creditor nation. They have more assets in other countries than the liabilities we have. And Japan is the largest, and followed by Republic of China, Germany, Switzerland, Hong Kong, Singapore. So, this makes the credibility of Japan as a country much bigger than the worrying issue about the Japanese government debt. Unlike the common notion that Japan is an export engine, or Japan is an export-driven economy, but it has changed in the last decades, or probably 2 decades. The Japanese export has constantly decreasing. This is a trade balance. And it has been constantly decreasing. Actually, it recorded pretty big trade deficit after the global financial shock. So Japan is no longer export economy, and the primary income balance is pretty good. That makes the current account balance okay. Although the trade balance is decreasing, and sometimes record the deficit in trade balance, but the primary income balance is increasing. Therefore, the current account balance is okay. Primary income is a net flow of profits, interest, and dividends from investment in other countries, and net remittance flows from migrant workers. Well, we don't have many migrant workers in Japan. We don't have many Japanese working as a migrant workers in other countries, unlike some countries like the Philippines. Therefore, the majority of the primary income is the profits and the interest or dividends coming from the investment made in foreign countries by the Japanese, largely by the Japanese companies. So this is a primary income trend. This dark blue indicates direct investment income, and this blue bars indicate portfolio investment income. So, basically, these blue lines, blue bars show the income from investment made overseas by, in largely financial assets like U.S. government bonds or, global stocks. And these are the base bar chart shows the income from a direct investment. So these are the returns from the foreign direct investment by the Japanese companies. Is there room to grow in foreign direct investment by the Japanese companies? The answer is yes, because if you compare it to some other countries, developed countries, Japanese foreign direct investment level is still low or still small relative to other countries. For example, well, this is a red square indicates Japanese foreign direct investment, and this is a foreign direct investment stock versus GDP percentage. So about 20% of foreign direct investment stock as percentage of GDP, or well, it has increased to about 30%. And this is the USA. Well, they invest invest a lot in foreign countries, but their domestic economy is the largest in the world. So in terms of percentage of GDP, still relatively small, about 40%. And European countries have much larger percentage of foreign direct investment. Germany has about 60% of foreign direct investment stock as of their GDP. And the UK is 80%, which makes them one of the largest, well, investor in the world. And this is the income per GDP. So in case of the UK, it's like 5% of the GDP is coming from the from investment in other countries, and whereas Japan still about 2.3% or 3% of the GDP is coming from investment in other countries. And where is the Japanese direct investment going to is that this is Asia, so by the Japanese, so by Japanese companies. So it's going to mostly Asian countries or North American countries and some European countries, because they have well, in case of North America and Europe, because they have a big domestic market. So like this is a transportation equipment, and so in case of Asian countries, it is transplant. It is an export center for two third countries, and also the domestic market is increasing in Asian countries. So transportation equipment and electronic machinery, wholesale and retails, these are the big sectors that Japan is investing in other countries. Unfortunately, this does not include Brazil. The investment in Brazil so far by the Japanese companies is very much limited. So well, not because I did my MBA at London Business School at the University of London, but I think UK can be a very good example for Japan in the future, because UK, as everybody knows, more than 100 years ago, it was factory. It was a country that did the industrial revolution, started the industrial revolution. First in the world. So and it used to be the world's factory for about more than a decade. Started in the 18th century to the beginning of the 20th century. It was the world's factory, and but it lost out. It had lost out to the emerging economies 100 years ago, and back then emerging economies were countries like United States and Germany. Was 100 years ago. It was emerging economies, and UK let the immigrants in to keep their young workforce. I don't know. It was by their choice, or they just had to because of the colonies they had in the past. So they probably politically they had to do it. Reluctantly did it probably, but anyway, the result was these immigrants from mainly former colonial countries kept their workforce young. And it has been Europe's largest financial center, after the Brexit, I don't know, or probably less influential in the world's financial market, but it will probably stay as one of the largest financial center for sure. And that makes the good return on the sizable foreign assets because they had one of the Europe's largest financial center, which is the city of London, for centuries, and therefore big foreign assets, and the investment is very vibrant. And they also has a world's top universities, as you can see in this, often talked about world's university ranking. And this year, University of Oxford was ranked #1 in the world, and third, there's a University of Cambridge as well, and on the 10th rank, Imperial College of London. This is a very famous technical college or science college in London. And so out of the top 10 universities in the world, and it's usually dominated by the United States, and it is still dominated by this year by the United States, like Caltech, Stanford, MIT, Princeton, Harvard, Yale, and the University of Chicago. But there are 3 universities from the UK which are constantly ranked among the top 10 or top 20 or top 100, and so this attracts young talents, very talented young men from the world. And I like to mention about London Business School, which is my alma mater as well. And London Business School has been ranked #1 in Europe constantly, and among the top 10 always among the top 10 business schools in the world constantly. So that's why I chose London Business School, or I wanted to study at the London Business School, and luckily I was accepted and graduated from it. I should not forget about the Tokyo Olympics, and nowadays Olympics are not mentioned at all in Japan. Everybody seems to have forgotten. Because there was a decision by IOC and the Japanese Olympic Committee as well to postpone this year's Olympic naturally for a year, and that decision was made in March. But everybody thinks that who knows whether it's going to happen next year or postpone again, or maybe canceled totally. It can happen as well. It all depends on the availability of the vaccines and how the COVID-19 situation evolves from now on. And if it was canceled, it is a blow obviously to the Japanese economy, because Japan has already invested a lot into this. And but if we do not have the foreign visitors as we expected, what's going to happen to all these the hotels that has sprung up in the last couple of years in time for the Olympic, and expecting lots of foreign visitors. It has been increasing in the last few years constantly. The visitors from other countries to Japanese, but now it's all gone. So it can be a big blow to the Japanese economy. Going back to the FDI trends of Japan, flow of Japan's outward FDI from 1996 to 2016 by Jetro, it has been constantly increasing, except for the aftermath of the global financial crisis. But it has already surpassed the previous level. Where is the investment going? As we saw in the chart a couple of slides ago, the Asia has been the Asia and North America and Europe. But these countries were the majority of the destination. The Japanese FDI was going, and the other parts. Well, China, because it's a big country and a big investment destination, it is by itself, it shows one section here, China, and the rest of Asia is this. And Asia's, investment is Asia looks like it peaked a few years ago. It was mainly a transplant back then, and it's going to be more of a retail and to capture the domestic growing consumption market, I think. And the trends in distribution ratio of Japanese overseas affiliates by region is, it hasn't changed much over the decades. It is, mainly by China. FDI inflow. Lastly, FDI inflow to Brazil. Well, the absolute number is not much, as I mentioned, and by the Japanese. And I didn't know about this, but Netherlands seems to be the biggest investor to Brazil. Well, I haven't investigated this, so probably someone who knows about this probably points this out. Tell me, what is the Netherlands investing in Brazil? What kind of industries or what kind of countries, or why it is so? Is it always so, or just it happens in this year over 2018? I don't know. It is followed by United States, which is 18%, and Germany, Spain, Luxembourg, and Japan is where? This one, I believe, so only 3%. It's a shame. And FDI inflow share by segment is one, oil and gas, second, vehicles, including automobiles, I believe, and financial service, 9%, mining, and chemical products. Oh, okay, maybe Netherlands, they have Royal Dutch Shell, so probably that's why. And I think Brazil, needs more FDIs, foreign direct investment, including Japan, and these are the factors usually associated with foreign direct investment. So if these factors are, favorable, usually, the investors would make investment in that particular in a particular country. So these are political stability, wage rates, tax rates, transport and infrastructure, size of local market, commodities, and access to trade areas. So these are usually, the factors affecting the FDIs. And I like to ask you, who, as Brazilians, think that that you need to work on more to attract foreign direct investment to Brazil? Can you pull up that poem, Hugo-san?
Okay. Pessoal, aqui tem uma quarta pergunta que o professor Takagi está direcionando aos participantes, né? Que fator o Brasil precisa melhorar para atrair o FDI, o investimento externo, né, no país, estabilidade política, níveis salariais, redução de impostos, transporte e infraestrutura, tamanho do mercado local, commodities ou mais acesso ao mercado livre, né? Livre de impostos. Vamos respondendo. Estamos chegando no final. Ok. Muito obrigado pela participação.
Oh.
That's the
interesting. Yeah. So majority of you. Well, actually, you can choose several. Not only one. And the majority of you think that the political stability is a problem, in Brazil, and you need to have more stable political situations to attract foreign investment. Obviously. Because if it's unstable, investors would hesitate to hesitate to invest. And it's interesting that the wage rates is very, very good or fine, which means that it would be attractive level of wage rates for investors, meaning that probably the wage rates is relatively low in Brazil. Yeah.
Yes, for direct labors. Yes.
Okay.
And especially due to the current situation.
True. Okay. Yeah, I went there 5 years ago, and I thought the prices it's okay, but not as low as I kind of wanted or hoped.
But the currency changed dramatically.
Okay, I should go there.
Yeah,
I should visit you.
The labor-related taxes are still very high. So that makes the wage per se is low. But if you add for lots of people, double the actual wage, actual salary.
So this shows in the third topic, which is tax rates.
Yes. Okay. So tax rates and transport and infrastructure that you think that you need to work for to make it better, and access to trade areas as well. That's a very interesting. Yeah, and I also heard that tax, not only the rates itself of taxes, but it's very complicated, and actually no one really knows the exact taxation or right to taxation. There are always a dispute, I heard, and that needs to be get fixed as well, I think. Okay, thank you very much, and let's move on to the I think the last slides. This is a summary. So COVID-19, I think, only accelerates the ongoing economic trends in Japan, and that has not dramatically changed, or the trend in Japan at least. And Japanese government is financially poor, but the majority of the debt is financed domestically. I believe it's like 95% of the national debts are financed domestically. Therefore, it has not causing foreign exchange crisis, and the yen has been stable against the foreign currencies. The only way out of this massive debt seems to introduce inflation, if history is by any stand is a lesson, but which is another way of taxation, right? Because of the inflation makes everybody everybody's asset poorer, and making the country poorer. So, which is not a very good choice. However, politically, probably it is the only way out, given this massive debt, Japanese government debt. And a better way out is expanding global investment and investing in education, I think, because expanding economy is expanding economy means more incoming taxes that the government can have, but the Japanese economy has been flat for the last 3 decades. Mainly because firstly because the population has not increasing, and in the last 15 years it has been actually decreasing. So if you have a decreasing population, you usually have a shrinking economy naturally, right? And particularly because it is aging more so than other countries. And therefore, older people do not spend like the young, even if they have money to spend. Therefore, in order to expand the Japanese economy, in order to vibrate or revive the Japanese economy, we probably have to expand the global investment, and we have the assets actually, at least in the private sectors. This also includes FDI to Brazil. I was fortunate enough to teach Nikkei student classes at JICA, by support of the JICA program, and I'm a student, dozens of my students in Brazil, and most of them are working in professional service like accounting, management consultants, and engineers as well, which makes the very strong middle class in the Brazil, I think, Nikkei communities. So and also there are many Nikkei owners of business, business owners of SMEs in Brazil, I know. So that would be a very good starting point for the Japanese company to expand to the investment in Brazil. So that concludes my presentation, and I'd like to take questions, and hopefully I can answer them. But I'm not an economist or professional economist, so from a point of view of businessman and the investor. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Takagi. I would like to open for the questions. Participantes, por favor, se vocês tiverem perguntas, fiquem à vontade para direcionar o link que há na tela aqui embaixo, né? Fique à vontade, Paulo, para realizar perguntas também.
Também, mas eu queria, Professor, thank you very much for your presentation. Some of the points regarding COVID were known in Brazil, but could you explain perhaps what caused Japan to have such a low casualty, the death rate compared to Brazil, we did basically same things. The state of emergency, perhaps even for a longer period of time. But why Japan was so successful? Was the tradition of wearing masks, perhaps the discipline? What is the, you know UK very well. UK had a tremendous problem. What caused this difference?
Okay, we do not know the exact answer to that. I think specialists are working on it around the world. Why some countries have much lower death rates, and whereas some other countries have a much higher death rate. And there are some possibilities, and including the things that Hirai-san just mentioned, the customs, Japanese customs, including majority of people wash hands, even before the COVID-19, regularly, and wearing masks when they have cold or flu. So it was customs for decades now, and also we do not, as Nikkei people well know, that we do not shake hands, we do not hug each other much. It is very uncommon, and so that obviously have some impact, I think, and probably we should all bow instead of shaking hands from now on.
But could that explain such a huge difference? Here in Brazil, we have about twice Japan's population, less than that, and we are near 70,000 deaths.
70,000, that's massive.
Yeah,
Wow.
In last 24 hours, we had 1,200 deaths.
Exactly.
24 hours.
Wow.
More than what Japan has in entire COVID pandemic.
Right. And also, there's another theory recently pointed out by the doctors, medical doctors, is that probably the type of COVID-19 itself is different, and Japan is situated in Asia, and the coronavirus itself has been there for decades, right? And this COVID-19 is new. It's a new type of coronavirus, but the coronavirus itself has been there for decades, or maybe hundreds of years, or maybe centuries. I don't know, but it has been one of the causes of cold, and can be a type of flu. But it has evolved to this new type of COVID-19, which has become severe type of virus. But so some medical doctors think that probably Japanese people has been contained by the another type of, or traditional type of classic type of COVID coronavirus before. So probably the Japanese people, and also other Asian countries who also has a relatively small number of death cases. We do not have much severe cases of COVID-19. So probably many Asian people are already to have a COVID-19 antivirus. That's another theory that's coming up recently, and the one that hit the Europe and other countries that they get very severe infection is that
we
had
hope that we as a Nikkei in Brazil, live in Brazil, we might have also this anti COVID-19 genesis. So, Professor Takagi, we have several questions here.
Sure.
Directly addressed to your lecture, no? Especially related with the increase of Japanese FDI trend increase, no, for abroad. And perhaps this may bring opportunity also to Brazil. Do you think, where do you see the opportunities, no, to bring a closer relation with Brazil and Japan, since we have a 100-year relationship with Japanese immigrants coming to Brazil, and the biggest Nikkeis living outside Japan, community, Nikkei community. Several participants asked these kind of questions.
I see. Okay.
Uma pergunta também para o Paulo, né? Maybe Paulo here, I also could comment after you.
Hi. Yeah, that's a very good question, and yeah, well, because I do not know, unfortunately, know Brazilian situation very well. You know, I only had the chance to visit Brazil just once 5 years ago, so I can't, answer for sure. However, if you again look at these. I think you are seeing the factors affecting FDI, right? Again, yeah. So if you think about this factors affecting FDI, it's pretty much the same for the Japanese investors as well. And you need to have a political stability, and wage rates is okay, you think. But you need to have to work on political stability and the tax rates and transport. And but unfortunately, these are the things that is very difficult to change, because it all relates to politics, and the politics is well in well, unlike some countries like China, where only one political party controls everything. But we live in a democratic countries. Well, Japan, Brazil, as also that the policies decided by the voters, popular votes. So these are some of the factors that are hard to change. And but
looking from entrepreneur perspective, as you are investor, venture capital investor, do you think that there are sectors that the Brazilian companies can explore, which could bring opportunities to close these business relationship with Japan? Like you are seeing a lot of startups popping up and catching up business opportunities. I think looking from this perspective as an entrepreneur, where do you see opportunities for this?
Right.
Well,
So
add a few things. Unfortunately, the COVID halted the tax reform in Brazil. We are about to change our tax structure. That would lower the labor cost, making investments in Brazil more attractive, and a few other things. Of course, for a Brazilian citizen, the overall tax burden will not change, but it will move to different areas. Instead of taxing labor, our government is going to tax perhaps property, but income certainly, and reduce consumption taxes. But anyway, this is in the mid of a major project to free some infrastructure projects that could be attractive to Japanese large companies. Perhaps a joint venture of Embraer with Mitsubishi, something like that also. But Professor, let me address another issue. You asked who led the digital transformation? CEOs, CIOs or CTOs?
Yes, Chief Information Officer.
COVID accelerated lots of transformation. We did very little work at home, very little digital conversation, but now everybody is doing that. And you mentioned, for instance, telemedicine. Here in Brazil, of course, we cannot offer good medicine to all people. We have a quarter of the population that can afford having private health plan. But three-fourths of the population cannot, and the public system is very poor. You mentioned, I think, if I didn't misunderstand what you said, that one of the areas you invested is telemedicine. There a way for us to have access to that, because lots of people are investing in telemedicine, studying, doing things. And a good idea could be very profitable for a Japanese company, or even to yourself, and be of great help to Brazil, because we could offer such a lower cost service.
I see. Yes, you're right that I'm involved in telemedicine. I was actually a CFO of this particular telemedicine company in Kagawa Prefecture for the last 5 years. I just resigned from it because of my, mainly due to my family situation in Tokyo. So I needed to go back to Tokyo to get together with my family. However, yes, I'm still, the second largest shareholder of this company, telemedicine company. So I'm, stakeholder, one of the biggest stakeholder of this company. And this particular company provides telemedicine device for pregnant women, right? To check out their pregnancy condition remotely, right? Yes, in Japan we have many enough obstetricians accessible within, let's say, 30 minutes of drive, or probably 1 hour or 1 hour of drive at maximum. So there's less situation where telemedicine is needed for pregnant women. But however, because of this COVID-19 situation, all of a sudden there's a surge in demand for our device. We are coping with it, and we developed that telemedicine device mainly thinking about the foreign market, because foreign countries, including Brazil, probably has large areas, and which is not covered by the medical systems, or hospitals, and cannot be located farther away in local area, because they're poor, or maybe because it's too far and less population. So yes, it can be, for example, licensed to a domestic company in Brazil for licensed manufacturing, production, and if there's we can start by exporting the device as well, and if there's a good enough demand in Brazil. Maybe it can be locally manufactured as well. We have, I mean, that particular company called Melody International has exported our device to so far Thailand, Laos, Myanmar, and the latest one was not Nepal, but the neighboring countries. I forget the name. Anyway, so mainly due to these semi-developed or developing countries. Yeah, but the cost is always the issue because our device is it's not cheap. Therefore, these programs so far, our sales to foreign countries have been financed by JICA programs.
Well, we can get JICA support here in Brazil as well.
Yeah.
Right.
So that can be, I mean, Japanese companies, unfortunately, or I have to say that, most of them do not have any personal contact with the Brazilian companies or Brazilian Nikkeis. Therefore, in daily lives, they do not think about the Brazilian market or, going to Brazil. But, so you have to, I think you have to approach, I think the Nikkeis in Brazil and other, South American countries, do not hesitate to approach Japanese companies. And usually Japanese companies, when approached, they are open, I think. And particularly if there's no or little risk, by licensing the product or service, concept to the product to Brazilian companies, then they would not hesitate, or they would not. They think they're okay usually. So, but if if asked to invest or set up a plant or need to hire people in Brazil, then the taxation and the very complicated political red tapes, that Japanese companies would not like to get into. So let the Brazilian local companies, Nikkei owners, business owners, do their business, run their business in Japan, operations in Brazil. Then there will be a much more, I think, vibrant talks is expected.
You mentioned that if approached, a Japanese company owner is open. Do you really think so?
Yes, because the Japanese business owners also have facing the big problem of shrinking domestic economy, right? In most industries, except for perhaps some the IT industry, but the traditional industries, almost all of them facing a shrinking economy. So they think in order for them to survive, they need to expand to foreign markets. So they would be, usually if they think about going abroad, going to a foreign market, they will, think about neighboring Asian countries first, right? Southeast Asian countries usually first. But, very few people would think about Latin America, including Brazil. But, as long as there's no risk or very little risk involved, I think they would listen.
Okay, good.
Takagi Sensei and Paulo-san, estamos chegando ao final da palestra, são 9 horas da noite, né? Já são 9 horas. Gostaria de deixar então para últimos comentários. Last commenter, if you could bring some messages to the audience about some advices for their businesses in these critical situations. As you are a very entrepreneurial person, what kind of advice can you give to them to survive and surpass this difficult moment of the economic situation? Paulo as well, if you could give us some advices, we appreciate a lot.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you well.
Sorry. If you could give the final words to the audience about business advices in this critical situation with COVID.
I see. Well, what to say? Well, it's obviously a difficult situation for all of us around the globe. I think, include people in Brazil, business owners in Brazil, and also business owners in Japan. But from a country where we have a shrinking domestic economy, Brazil. Well, you have ups and downs, but basically you have a growing population. And therefore growing economies. That's certainly an advantage for business owners, I think. And, probably many Japanese businesses would like to be in that kind of economies, I think. So it will be over sooner or later, and. As I said, I think if you look at the companies that is doing well in Japan at this moment, or in other countries, just like this service Zoom, their market capitalization has surpassed well over the previous level before the COVID-19, and so the ongoing trend has been continuing, whether or not there was a COVID-19 or not. And actually, there are companies and services or products probably that COVID-19 has accelerated or catapulted. And unfortunately, there are other businesses that is badly affected, and probably would not come back to the same level as probably previously. So this is a time, I think, is to ponder and think about in the long term, and what is driving force, mega trends that is going to continue, and probably you need to adjust your business to the new situation. And I think business is all about adapting to the new reality, right? So. Brazilian Nikkei's, had lots of ups and downs in the past. We had war, and we had after war, and you had lots of dramatic change in politics, unlike in Japan or other countries. So I think you were very adaptable, and you are used to adapting to new situation. And I hope you best of luck. And
thank you very much.
Yeah, I like to visit Brazil, particularly given the very low exchange rate. So I like to join you. Real time.
After the vaccine, better to wait. Paulo, por favor.
Well, Professor, thank you very much for your presentation, for your advice. I'm taking note that Japanese businessmen, if approached, could be open.
Yes,
if we could lower the risk of doing business with Brazil. We'll take that in consideration and redirect our effort to deal with Japanese companies, mainly in the SME area, to attract some of them. We don't need much money. Of course we do, but if the idea is good, we can take advantage of these new ideas, startups in Japan, and apply in Brazil to the benefit of our country and to the benefit of the Japanese entrepreneur. So let's see what we can do from now on. Thank you anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have several questions from the audience. I will share with you after all. And if you could answer, we will be appreciated a lot.
Ok. Ok.
Muito obrigado pela audiência e manteremos esse contato semana que vem também. Teremos uma nova palestra e estaremos anunciando brevemente o tema da próxima semana. Muito obrigado a todos e tenham uma boa noite. Obrigado. どうもありがとうございました。
プロフェッサー、
それでは、
どうもありがとうございました。
はい、さようなら。
さよなら。
また今度、
よろしくお願いします。
直接会いましょ
はい、そうです
お
ね。
待ちしております。
う。はい。
アフター
見たいで
コピー。
す。はい。クアランティーなくなれば行きます。
そうで
そう
すね。
ですね。
はい。皆さん、さよなら。
さよな
失礼し
ら。
ます。
はい、どうもありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。会長。失礼します。